rescue or recovery of 39 children. Let's listen.
Health Care of Atlanta Medical Director, Dr. Stephen Messner is behind me. Thank you, Doctor, for coming. Let me say a few words, and then Attorney General Carr will say a few words, and then the GBI Assistant Director, John Melvin, will speak, and then after him, Dr. Messner with the Children's Health Care of Atlanta will say a few words as well. So why are we here? We're here because we conducted an operation. As I said, in this geography, we recovered 26 missing and endangered children, and we safely located an additional 13, and we arrested 9 criminals that are involved or were involved with these missing children. In the process, we cleared 26 arrest warrants, and we filed additional charges for alleged crimes related to sex trafficking, parental kidnapping, registered sex offender violations, drugs and weapons possession, and custodial interference. Some of the names, and this is not all of them, but some of the defendants, there's one Kirk Waters as an example. He was arrested for being while in the company of one of our recovered children. He was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He's incarcerated. His bond has been denied. Zachary Bailey is another name. He was arrested and charged with sex trafficking of a juvenile, among other alleged crimes. He's also incarcerated. And the third name that I'll mention here, as I said, there are others. The third name is Stanson Causey. He was arrested for a probation violation. The original charge was child molestation. He's now also incarcerated. Now, a lot of people contributed to this operation, without whom this operation would not have been successful. I want to personally thank Commander Jim Joyner, who I can see back behind you there, Deputy Commander Dennis Durando, and the Missing Child Unit Chief. She's smiling behind her mask, Chief Darby Kirby. These were all super folks who were instrumental in carrying out this operation, in conducting the training, the planning, and then the actual operation itself being done in a truly noble, professional, and an outstanding way. I'm very proud of what they were able to accomplish in the short time that we were on this operation. Now, as successful as this operation was, there is a harsh reality here, though. And the harsh reality is, gee, why are we doing this in the first place? Why do we have missing, endangered children? The stats are that in every 40 seconds, there is a child abducted in the United States. Every 40 seconds. And so I kind of like to keep the math straightforward. I'll round that up just for grins here today and call it every 60 seconds. That means that every minute that I speak, one child is abducted in the United States of America. According to the FBI stats, they gather stats from around the country that are reported to them. There are over 421,000 missing children that are reported as I stand here now. Of those reported, 90%, 91% actually, are considered endangered runaways. Now you can do the math. That's about 360,000 endangered children in this country. And of that 360,000, 1 in 6 of them, now do the math again, that's 60,000, is likely to become a victim of sex trafficking. 60,000, that's unacceptable. Now these are not children that are in some faraway land. These are children that are not, they're not somebody else's kids, right? I have children, I'm sure many of you do as well. These are not my kids, right? And these are not your kids, but actually they are our kids when it's all said and done. And so we have to accept them as our kids because they are America's children, and they're kids that we need to go and find. Right here in Atlanta, approximately 300 young girls are lured into sex trafficking every month. Now, you can do the math on that as well. That's something that we need to pay attention to and to work harder on, I believe. So this is a priority of the United States Marshal Service. We do a lot of things. As you know, you're standing here in a building that's one of 8 regional fugitive task forces around the United States. We are responsible for bringing to justice about 100,000 fugitives every year, 100,000, in buildings and with people that are engaged in the many deaths that you have your cameras sitting around as I talk here. Okay. But I'll tell you, we're very proud of bringing in fugitives, no doubt about it. But this operation of going and rescuing children, in my view, is far, far, far more important. The numbers are not nearly the 100,000 when we talk about missing children that we are able to recover. But one missing child is worth thousands, in my mind, of fugitives that we go out and get. So we have a number of partners that we work with here, and I'm going to name them in a minute just to make sure that everyone gets the proper credit that's due, because I don't believe that my agency is due any credit whatsoever when it comes to this particular mission. Yeah, we were here, we're part of the leadership and the planning and the training and the funding and all of that, but we can't do it without the partners that we have to help us get through these things. So our mission in the Marshal Service with respect to missing children is a national mission. There are United States Marshals in 94 different districts around the country and in the American territories, so we have a presence virtually everywhere. What I'd like to see is that we have a missing child mission virtually everywhere as well, so that we can help to bring these many, many thousands of missing children home. Since 2005, we've recovered nearly 2,000 missing children in the Marshal Service. These fit in a particular category. I keep using the term missing endangered children. That means something to us. These are children that are in an environment where they are the victims of a violent crime, or they are in an environment where there are certain factors that are being brought to bear that makes them endangered. They're the subjects of sexual assaults. They're the subjects of sex trafficking, molestation, and things of that sort. And then there are other factors that we also look at as well. So it's a big mission when it's all said and done. There are big numbers, and there's plenty of work to go around for law enforcement agencies. Some of our partners, I said I'd mention those, so we'll make sure we understand who all may be involved here. First, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which has its offices in Arlington, Virginia, but they work cases all over the country and in many cases all over the world. With their partnership with the FBI and with the United States Marshal Service, we're able to do some really, really good things with them. Here in Atlanta, we've had the State of Georgia Attorney General's Office, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Missing Child Recovery Unit, the Georgia Department of Families and Children's Services, as I said, the FBI, and its Metro Atlanta Child Exploitation Task Force, and a number of local law enforcement agencies from Atlanta and Macon, Georgia. Now, the 26 kids who were rescued during Operation Not Forgotten, these rescues were a direct result of the collaboration among many agencies, particularly the ones I mentioned. I want to say again that these are the most at-risk and challenging recovery cases in the area. Okay? You can think of the U.S. Marshal Service as being expert, I think the best, at finding people anywhere in the world. These particular cases, finding children, are equally difficult. And so the expertise that I think we can bring to bear is necessary for us to achieve the success that we've achieved in these kinds of missions. Now, we are also conducting these missions in other cities around the country. I'll give you an example here. We have Operation Safety Net, which is ongoing as we speak in Cleveland. So far there, during the few weeks of operations, we've recovered 15 missing children, and we've arrested at least 2 individuals and seized a number of weapons associated with those individuals. There is an operation ongoing in the city of New Orleans. It's called Operation Summer Rescue. That one's kicking off, and we expect to see similar successes in that area. My agency is committed to this mission. Finding missing children has to be among our highest priorities. My message to the missing children and their families is very simple, and that is the way we look at fugitives. We will never stop looking for you. That's my message. Okay? There is no more meaningful work that law enforcement does than rescuing children. Our children are not for sale, and they are not ever forgotten. And so with that, I'm going to turn over the podium to the Georgia Attorney General, Chris Carr.
Director Washington, thank you so much for being here. Your presence means a great deal, and we are so grateful for you taking the time to be in Atlanta today with us and for the partnership in this particular operation. And I want to thank everybody that's been a part of this. So many different agencies, so many different folks working together, and it truly makes a difference. I do want to say a special thanks to the head of our prosecutions division, John Fowler, and to the head of our human trafficking unit, Hannah Palmquist, and their entire team. This unit is new for our office. It is a first of its kind in state history, and when we launched, we had high expectations for the team, and they continue to exceed them, and we could not be more proud of the work that they are doing each and every day, and we're so proud of the work that we are doing with our partners like the U.S. Marshal Service, the GBI, and those that are standing up on the podium today. To date, our unit has placed 18 victims of domestic minor sex trafficking in rehabilitation services and centers such as the state's Receiving Hope Center, which is operated by Wellspring Living. We've worked cases in 11 Georgia counties. We have indicted 5 traffickers with 8 additional ongoing investigations. Operation Not Forgotten was designed to locate and recover missing and endangered children in Georgia and beyond, including some who were known to be victims of sex trafficking. As a result of this operation, our office has assisted the U.S. Marshal Service and the GBI in placing additional victims in rehabilitation centers, and to date, we have developed 3 new cases with multiple trafficking suspects. We often get asked by the media about the statistics behind trafficking, and they're not so easy to come by. Sex trafficking can be in many ways a hidden crime, one that lives in the shadows. I always go back to the fact that if we can save one child from a life of abuse or sex trafficking, we've done our job. And this operation did that for many, many children. Children who were not given a fair shake to begin with, children who maybe would have fallen through the cracks had it not been for the dedicated efforts of law enforcement officials that worked this operation. And the work that these men and women did during these 2 weeks will be life-changing for these young children. And I cannot praise them enough for a job well done. Our human trafficking unit's main role in this type of operation is to assist throughout, help coordinate services for victims, and ensure that any criminals involved in the abuse or trafficking of these children are held accountable for their despicable actions. Our prosecutors work with investigators to identify the signs of domestic minor sex trafficking and what we need from the scene in order to build strong cases against buyers and traffickers. Our criminal analyst and criminal investigator both aid their counterparts throughout the entire process, and our victim advocate acts as the linchpin between the victims and rehabilitative services. We're lucky in Georgia to have great partners in the recovery space who truly can step in when these operations conclude and carry the torch on providing rehabilitation services. I also want to thank Governor Brian Kemp and First Lady Marty Kemp for ensuring that we had the resources in order to do this through our Human Trafficking Prosecutions Unit. And I also have to commend our president and the administration for the resources that they have provided as we fight human trafficking. So I want to thank again the partners that we've had at the U.S. Marshal Service for including us as a partner from the early stages. I cannot say enough about Operation Not Forgotten and the men and women behind it. And I believe that the relationships forged as a result of this operation will allow us to save more children and put more buyers and traffickers behind bars. How many lives that we have saved and will have a new and fresh start is how we will measure success. And with that, I will turn it over to Assistant Director of the GBI, John Melvin.
Evil exists, and to address it requires leadership that will identify it, call it out, and deploy the necessary resources to end the problem and clean up the mess. To address it requires agents and foot soldiers and prosecutors that are willing to take the fight to the enemy. That is why I'm so thankful for the leadership of the Trump administration on the federal level, as well as Director Washington, Attorney B.J. Pack, and our brethren at the FBI. And on the state level, I'm very thankful for the leadership of Governor Kemp, Director Reynolds, as well as Attorney General Chris Carr. Evil exists, and it requires the coordinated partnerships to maximize our impact against it. So I want to thank every agent, every marshal, every member of the Bureau, the FBI, and every local agent that participated in fighting this evil. And whether you're behind a keyboard or you're on the street for a takedown, I want you to know that you made a difference. I want to say thank you to our leadership also for recognizing the need for a holistic approach as we fight evil. For not only did we take them down, but we're also partnering with Wellspring as well as CHOA to clean up the mess. CHOA and Wellspring are really providing a ministry to the harmed souls that this evil has caused. I'm grateful for our leadership and our agents, the members of the GBI like Debbie Garner, and our SEAC unit who helped track them down. I'm thankful for the U.S. Marshal's Office and Marshal Yeager who allowed us to participate in this effort. I want y'all to continue to pray for Hannah Palmquist, who's the head of the Human Trafficking Unit at the AG's office, as well as John Fowler, because we're only halfway to the gold line. We need to hold these perpetrators accountable, and we need to make sure that they are incarcerated so that they will never again perpetrate their evil against the children of the state of Georgia. Thank you. I want to say thank you again to Dr. Mesner and to those that are engaging in the ministry to help our children get better. May God bless you all.
I hate to say this, but I will anyway. Dr. Mesner was a little reluctant to speak with you today, not because he didn't have anything to say, but because he obviously is a person who is rather meek. But the contributions made, when you ask yourself the question, so we've got the U.S. Marshals with guns and badges, we've got the Attorney General with the prosecutions and prosecutors, we've got GBI with, again, guns and badges. But what happens to the children after that? What happens after they're rescued? Well, Dr. Mesner is going to talk to you briefly about what that process is. It's very important to understand that there is a network there that can be depended upon, but we can't do it without people like Dr. Mesner and his organization.
Thank you very much. So I'm Steve Messner. I'm one of the child abuse pediatricians at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. I'm the medical director of the Stephanie D. Blank Center for Safe and Healthy Children. I'd like to thank all of you for allowing us to participate in this operation. It's really important for these children that once they're recovered that we can start the healing process. And by involving us at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, we're able to start that process right from the get-go. So on behalf of all the children who are recovered, I'd like to thank all of you for your efforts that have been put forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. All right, with that, I think that's all who volunteered to speak today at the conference, but everybody, you see the people here who are present to answer any questions you might have in addition to myself. So with that, we'll open it to questions.
What are some of the locations where the arrests were made?
Anybody help with that? Specific locations?
In Atlanta.
Just a second. I got the experts over here who know all the details. Come on up.
Josue Rivera, ma'am, with the U.S. Marshal Service. We had locations all over the state. As far as Atlanta, you're looking at the surrounding counties, Gwinnett, Fulton, Clayton, as far north as Forsyth County. I'd have, it's probably about 20 counties total in the state of Georgia. So I'd have to.
Can you give us an address?
Say again?
The address of the property?
No. What do you mean address?
Where you picked up these?
There's 39 recoveries. I mean, I'd have to go back and look through there. But
Yeah, if that's really important to you, we can give you what we can give you.
Just a few locations, just for video purposes, even if it's streets.
Yes, we'll provide that to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Most of these locations, like hotels, motels, or were subdivision homes?
Various locations. There were some motels where some children were being trafficked. Some were residences, apartment complexes. They ran from motels to apartment complexes.
Yeah, there's no particular formula for this. It's just like where you might live. It's all said and done. Thank you. Yeah, yes, sir. Don't go too far. And let me just add before you, the next question. The way these things normally happen is the task force will meet with the various parties involved and discuss the possible names, because there are organizations who know the names of the people that we need to go look for. These, as things go, it becomes a typical investigation where people do what some people call gumshoe work. They will take data and start looking as to where people might be, and then get out and actually go find the folks that are involved. Yes, ma'am.
Of the 39, you've got 13 who you just had the safe location of. So what happens with them? What kind of does that safe location mean, and what does their kind of future look like? What's that situation?
Yeah, as I understand it, and again, we've got experts here, as I understand it, that particular 13, these were children that law enforcement felt that they sort of needed a health and welfare check, if you will, because we were just not certain as to what their current conditions were. So someone was sent to find them, so we had to use our expertise to actually locate them first, and then go verify as to whether or not they were actually endangered. And if they were, then they would be removed from those environments and taken into the system that we have discussed today. If they were not, then they continue to live where they are.
Of these children, do you know how many were victims of sex trafficking?
15 of
15
50.
of the 39?
Of the 9 arrests, how many were in Macon, and how many were in Metro Atlanta area?
We can get that for you.
And
We'll get
then
that.
are you expecting to make any more arrests through this operation?
Yeah, this operation has concluded, but that doesn't mean that we won't continue to work with the agencies here. And, you know, as names pop up, we will go and work and find those folks. What has happened as a result, I think, this is probably a very accurate statement, is as a result of working together, we're now very, very comfortable working together as a task force. So the people who actually worked inside, who actually do the work like you saw a moment ago, those are the folks who have established relationships with others inside the other agencies that are involved. So phone calls will be made. So when a critically missing child is identified, there'll be people working to go find that child. So that's one of the big benefits of things like this, is we get to know each other better. I know that in this particular case there was some reluctance by at least one agency in working with the United States Marshal Service because of all the stuff that you hear, which I consider to be false, but that you hear that's happening around the country. But after working with this agency, it becomes very clear that we're easy to work with, we're dedicated to do these kinds of things, we want to do these kinds of things, and we're here to serve.
Does anyone who has past experience with this notice any kind of difference that the pandemic played on this? Was having more people at home make it easier, harder, just kind of like with traffic flow? Was there any kind of difference on what this mission was like in a pandemic versus past
Yeah.
ones?
Well, I'll give you the 60,000 foot view, and then if anybody has any specific view about that, feel free to add. The 60,000 foot view is yes, there is a difference. The pandemic has slowed the pace of a number of things. For example, this particular operation actually was supposed to kick off in January of this year. I believe that I got that right. And then we tried some things up to March, And then in March, we had to shut down, sort of reassess how to do things. The United States Marshal Service is famous, in my view, for finding a way forward. So we had to sit and find a way forward for a lot of things, including this particular operation. So it was kicked back up in early August and has now concluded. Yes.
I know this is something relatively new to the U.S. Marshal Service, but having this new ability as of 2015, do you think that signals either a recognition of the fact that sex trafficking, and especially minor sex trafficking, is such a problem in the country, or do you think it's just finding new ways to address it?
I believe that it's finding new ways to address it. I was a member of the George W. Bush administration before I became a member of the Trump administration. And in that administration, we created what's called Project Safe Neighborhoods, and Project Safe Childhoods, in addition to Project Safe Neighborhoods. But Project Safe Childhoods was focused upon children, and what we saw at that time as exploitation of children, primarily online and things of that sort, but it was happening in the sex trafficking world as well. So this is an expansion of the United States Marshal Service's authority. Over the last 4 years now, we have expanded our capabilities and expanded the people, the number of people and the resources to actually do this particular mission. You can expect to see us have a further expansion. The Chief Kirby is back there. She's shaking her head up and down. I've already talked to her this morning. I said, look, these are excellent numbers. I just want to see 10 times as much. So you're going to see more of these things happening.
So we all appreciate what you guys are doing. I think you guys are doing a great job. I would just like to know when you help the younger kids and some of the kids that are going towards adulthood, is there any additional resources so they don't fall back into the cracks of being exploited, like maybe education, maybe housing as they kind of reach of age?
Yeah. Any of the experts want to address that?
Chris Carr, I will say that's where the partnerships come in, like with a Wellspring Living and others. And Wellspring just happened to be the States Recovery Center, but the wraparound services that are needed for children or for the victims can be extensive. There's an evaluation that is done. I'd encourage you actually to reach out to Wellspring to learn about the specific details. But absolutely, each person is different. There may be physical needs, there may be mental health needs, there may be educational needs, but the rehabilitation side is critically important for exactly what you just said, so you don't fall back and you get the services that you need in order to continue to move forward. And there's some great organizations that are doing it. Wellspring is one, and I'd encourage you to look into the specifics of each one of those organizations.
Will list of some of those be provided?
Yeah, we can get that for you.
For this specific operation, is there an age range for the children who were rescued?
What was the age range?
3 to 18.
Yeah, 3 to 18.
17, 18.
Yeah, usually 17 is the upper limit for that. And as you might guess, the older the children are, the wider the range of reactions to being rescued become. Okay, not every endangered child actually wants to be rescued, but we're the adults in the room, as they say, and so we need to exercise our responsibilities as adults and go and take those children as old as they are in terms of being a child, up to 17, take them from that environment and put them into a safer environment. The range of responses that children give to being rescued range from, as I was told this morning, an interesting story, which I won't repeat here, but it's really quite simple, is a child gets rescued, and if that child has been the victim of sexual abuse, sexual molestation, and trafficking, then many times that child will be reluctant to talk to the rescuers. They get into an environment where then they finally feel safe, and there may be a dozen people around them, and then they just begin to cry. And then they typically will begin to thank those who have rescued them for taking the time and for never forgetting them, and hence the operation name, Operation Not Forgotten. There are others that are more difficult, who don't necessarily want to be rescued but have to be. And so the services that this gentleman mentioned over here a minute ago become vitally important to adjusting that mindset and to having them recognize the danger that they were in and the value of their lives as human beings really starts very early, but they're not maximizing that value if they stay in an environment where they're actually being, pimped, if you will, and stuff like that. That's just terrible. But every so often, we will see people who don't want to come out of those environments, but who have to be brought out of those environments.
These sex trafficking victims, are they linked to any criminal organizations? Is it widespread, or do you think it's relatively isolated as far as the number of children?
No, it's sex trafficking is a significant crime in the United States. I'll bet you the Bureau would tell you that it's something that they are struggling with, and that they're putting a major effort into it. It is not a onesie-twosie type crime. It exists. We have to get in our own minds the idea that, yes, sex trafficking occurs inside the United States of America, and it's something that we have to put more resources toward. Yes.
Yeah, we heard the age range that you mentioned. How long, do you have a range, an estimate for how long they were missing, from 2 months to 4 years, what the smallest length of time was, what the longest was?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Did I recall the longest I recall was probably about 2 years, and some were a couple weeks, maybe.
Okay, so we have 3 to 17-year-olds is the age range, and then
Couple
several
weeks.
up to
Right.
2 years.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Last question.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This is a worthwhile exercise, and thank you for coming. Take care of yourselves.